Hi, welcome to the Denver Senior Resource Channel. I am Morgan. I'm the director at Maintain Me.
And hi, I'm Chelsea and the nurse owner at Maintain Me.
And today we are going to be talking to you about affordable living options for low-income older adults, 55 plus, in Colorado, and generally independent folks. So they are looking for independent living. And Chelsea's going to start us off.
Yeah, awesome. So one of the biggest resources that we give people in the community that are looking for kind of a lower income, who are specified for lower income, is going to be the Colorado Affordable Housing Guide. And I'm going to kind of read you just a little bit about what's included in this guide, because we do think that it's super helpful. A lot of people will call us and they'll just say, hey, you know, I live off my Social Security and I can't afford what it looks like, you know, what my friends or my families or whoever it may be is doing. Are there options for me? And so a lot of times we do have to refer them to the Colorado Affordable Housing Guide. It's developed by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and it is pretty inclusive. It's a great place to start. It's not easy by any means. A lot of it is calling around, saying, you know, what is your specific process as far as getting on typically a wait list? How long is your wait list? I mean, there are times where I'll call and help families through this in our case management program or consulting program, and they'll have a 3-year wait list. And then there's other places that are like, oh, actually, we just went through our wait list yesterday and it's down to like 3 people. So go ahead and jump on. So in this guide, let's go back to the guide really quick and let me tell you what's included in it. So it's going to talk about definitions of what subsidized apartments are. It's going to talk about the public housing authorities, kind of help you understand what those things are, emergency shelter services and protection, housing counseling. There are people out there that can help with this that are covered through grants. What we often find is these people are very busy, and so it's really hard to either get a hold of them or even a live person in general. So, you know, that's when people start reaching out for places like ourselves who are local, who will make the calls for them and follow up for them. So that's kind of where you start to see some of these local businesses helping out because they are just completely swamped. But the way that this guide works is it's kind of on the left-hand side of it, it has, you know, the name of the apartments that are categorized into low income or subsidized housing. It has the address, the phone number, and then it really just says different categories. So it says type. And what that type means is, you know, is it for the elderly? Is it just an elderly low income apartment? Everybody in there is 65 plus or 55 plus, depending on what they designate. And the second one would be like family. You know, maybe it's just low income for all age groups in their families, or maybe you have to have children to be able to be there. I don't know, just different types there. And then also disabled. So those are the main 3 categories that are kind of spelt out in the guide. And then it kind of breaks it down by bedroom. So it really, you don't waste your time if you need 3 bedrooms in a place that only offers 1, or, you know, it even has ones that are 5 plus. I don't see very many of those, but it goes from 1 to 5 in that category. To be able to really break down what it is that you're looking for, because then it's just a process of calling, saying, how do I apply for this? What are your specific qualifications for me to be able to meet that criteria? And then how long is your wait list? And then what a lot of people don't understand is to get on the wait list, I would say probably 90% of these on the list actually require a deposit or an application fee in order to do it, and is often non-refundable. So, you know, it keeps people from getting on every list, and then making the list unrealistic as far as expectation, I think, is kind of the, you know, they only want qualified or people who are super interested so that they can get through it, you know, timely for those who are on the wait list. So there are families that can maybe only afford to get on 1 or 2 wait lists to be able to do that. So that's kind of the affordable housing guide. We are going to attach this down below for you guys. So if you are interested in, you know, accessing that, if you need help with that, we do offer that in consulting, but it is something that you can do yourself if you have, you know, the support or the time to be able to put that in. So we will attach that below. Morgan, where else is some of this information kind of located?
Yeah, great question. So this is a dated, but this is a senior blue book, and this is something that's free to anyone in Colorado. You can reach out to the senior blue book and request a copy, or oftentimes in rec centers or different places, you'll see these books sitting out. In the last couple of years, they've added a section for subsidized housing, and they also added a definition. So subsidized housing provides low-cost housing to qualified residents who pay 30% of their adjusted gross income for rent. So that's that definition. You're going to look at 30% of your adjusted gross income. And each community maintains their own wait list, as Chelsea was just talking about. So it is the calling and getting on wait lists, but you can use that 30% figure to understand how much you would be paying for your rent. And then Chelsea, what if you're not independent and you are a low income older adult in Colorado?
Yeah, awesome. So pretty much the next day, you know, the places that Morgan and I just talked about in those two guides are really for people who are independent that just need an apartment they can afford based off their income and not just a standard rate. So, but then there's this whole like space of like, okay, well, I need help. I don't need just an apartment, right? Like I live in my house, it's already paid for, you know, I need to move because I'm actually requiring more than just what, you know, a standard apartment or place can offer me. And so, you know, then we start looking into, okay, well, I need independent living or assisted living. Well, we all know, and if you haven't watched our current videos, go check them out as far as what the different levels of care are in independent living. But we're gonna exclude that because that is for people who are not low income, who want to live in a independent setting with amenities close by and on site. And that's not what we're talking about here. So we're talking about when you're actually needing care and you're still low income, right? It doesn't just magically all of a sudden you have money for care. They at that point, most people end up having to go to Medicaid and InnovAge, and then we run into the issue of, do you have enough of the private pay money, which is, you'll hear us use terms such as spend down. Do you have enough private pay money to meet each of these specific places that accept Medicaid and InnovAge, whatever their spend down time is? So that's a lot of words, but really what it means is, do you have X amount of money so that you can then be accepted under that Medicaid or InnovAge benefit, which is a government funded housing allowance that will allow you to receive care, right? So Medicaid and InnovAge, we'll get into those things. So if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. If this is like all new to you, we do break this all down, but today we are going to kind of focus a little bit more so on, you know, low income specifically, but we will break down Medicaid, InnovAge, things like that. But those are the two terms that when you start needing care, that's where it's going to be, is in a place that will accept Medicaid and InnovAge or have beds for Medicaid and InnovAge. And then you need a professional to really figure out, okay, well, what's the process for that? And what are those qualifications for you to accept me on my Medicaid or InnovAge benefit? So people are starting, right, Morgan, to get a little creative in this space. For a while there, don't you think it was like 75% of people who were calling us for a spend down for a minute there? I feel like it was just a lot of like, hey, you know, I didn't know this information, and now I've spent through a lot of my money, and I thought that when I ran out of money, I could just go into a place and under Medicaid and good to go. And so a lot of our people were like, well, that's just not the case. And we need to help you plan so that you have more options. And people are starting to catch on, don't you think, Morgan? Like, people are really building businesses around how to help people afford care, you know, that are low income.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we are seeing more and more of our partners make exceptions for people and maybe not requiring a spend down if they have a low census and they happen to have 2 extra rooms open. Or some communities are nonprofit and they're building a Medicaid half of their community and then a low income private pay. So maybe you don't quite qualify for Medicaid because of your income. You can still live affordably in assisted living with that private pay. It's just a lower benchmark because they're a nonprofit. So there are definitely more and more options coming to the table. And I think that's a great benefit of working with someone local in the area, like Maintain Me is here in the Denver Metro, because we have our pulse on that. We're looking out for who's doing that, who's offering that, what it take to get those beds or those spots. So it's a real benefit to looking for help, even when you are low income, or you're faced with a financial crisis to pay for assisted living.
Yeah, and when you're looking, because that senior blue book spot for the low income, that's kind of a new section, right? Yeah, what
Last couple of years.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about the layout of that? Is it just name? What does that look like as far as like?
So sure. So it's towards the front of the housing section, and it opens with senior housing definitions, and then it talks about the housing authorities for subsidized housing, and it really breaks it down by county. So at like a Denver Housing Authority and Arapahoe County Housing Authority, Broomfield, Aurora. And then once you get past those contact informations, it lists it by city. It lists the places. It gives you little, if you can see this, it kind of gives you the little benchmarks and a chart, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. Do they have a meal plan? But again, this is all for independent living. This is not for assisted living. And you can go to assisted living, which is the next chapters. It breaks it down the same. It has little marks for who accepts Medicaid and InnovAge. But just because that mark is there does not mean they have a spot for you.
I can speak to that because when I owned my own assisted living, I had a little 8-bed residential assisted living. The information in the Senior Blue Book, because it's a paid advertisement space, you just feel like as an owner, I filled it out myself. So as an example, just full transparency, right? Like I had InnovAge spots, but as an owner, I only designated a certain amount of spots in my home that were InnovAge. So yeah, do I have InnovAge that I take? Yeah, but that's as little as information as it really provides. So we do always say, I mean, Senior Blue Book's great. We did, what was a panel selection with Senior Blue Book. We know them very well. We've advertised in Senior Blue Book. We think it's a great resource. It's very baseline information. A lot of the communities will put, the minimum amount of maybe a rent and not so much all the care on top of it. So just make sure you're aware that that's not, always, I think it's a starting point. It's a really, really good starting point. And I love the fact that the Senior Blue Book broke it down by county and city, because that's one thing that the Colorado Affording Housing Option book that we're going to attach below, it just doesn't really do that. I mean, you can look at it and kind of see which city, but it really breaks it more down by the types I was talking about. So that's kind of nice. The Senior Blue Book, though, is pretty much designated for seniors, or what is it, 55, 65 plus, right? So they might not.
Plus.
Okay, so this one is a little bit more inclusive as far as, does it have disabled designations in there?
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, it has like HUD Section 8 tax credit.
Okay.
I think you'll see that throughout. I mean, often people who are on disability don't have things like a retirement savings because they were disabled and unable to work long enough to accrue that. So it doesn't, but I think ultimately they're included.
Yeah, well, in a couple places here, one specifically that I think about, they do have a, one side or one building that's designated to disabled and maybe lower income, and the other one designated towards Medicaid. So that was kind of cool that they, they have private pay and Medicaid, but it's cool that they separate the two of those things. So that it's just interesting. It's interesting how people are getting creative in this space, trying to help people better. Really awesome organizations. You could tell they're in it for all the right reasons, because they're just trying to find a more affordable way for people to be able to receive care when they didn't have the option to be able to pay for that privately. So really cool work. People will call us and say, Chelsea, check out this new program. Morgan, hey, guess what? Morgan's been involved very closely with one of them in developing what this looks like and bringing her expertise to the table. So just a plethora of knowledge in that space. And we're privileged to be able to be, contacted. I just feel so grateful to be able to be contacted on those things, because we do want to help everybody. And reality is that not everybody can afford to move into a place and receive care at end of life. And we're aware of that. And we need to make sure that we are constantly staying up to date on what's out there. And if we don't know, then we'll do the research for you. So, well, thanks for joining us today. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. We cover a ton of topics. This is just the start. We've been doing, training and education for a long time, but our YouTube channel is pretty new. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Our phone number is in there if you ever want to call and chat. If there's certain topics that you're interested in that we haven't already covered, let us know. I mean, that's what we're here to do, is to educate. We want to create informed consumers. We want you to feel confident about the decisions that you make. And we want to support you, if that makes sense. So our phone number will be listed in the comments below. We'll go ahead and attach the Senior Blue Book link for you. So it is also online if you don't know how to access your Senior Blue Book. You can also find the Senior Blue Book in some of your senior centers. Some of the rec centers have them in the front. They're really good about getting out there. You can always ask your doctor's office. Sometimes they have some. The hospitals typically do. So that's where you can find a Senior Blue Book if you would like the book in physical form. And then we'll also attach this Colorado Affordable Housing Options link for you as well in a PDF file. Again, thanks for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Signing up.